Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of DOCasts. In this episode, we're going to go over something actually quite fun and great for the new Linux user. And we're going to install something called Betty. It's like Siri for iPhone users on the command line, or like Google. I think it's Google on Android. I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with Android. If you're an Android user, definitely, I'm sorry if I murdered it. I think it's Google Now or something like that, right? But anyhow, Betty is what is used, or what can be used on the command line to do some simple and some awesome tasks like the Who Am I command. But let's get Betty installed. And Betty runs on Ruby, so we want to make sure that we have some of the system files installed here. So we have apt-get, let's install or make sure that curl is installed, get is installed, and Ruby is installed. And we'll use the apt-get install command to do that. And I'll just type in Y to approve that. And we'll go ahead and get this installed. Great, it's installed. Now what we can do is let's go ahead and clone Betty into here. So get clone. And we're going to go ahead and copy and paste it from the GitHub repository here. We'll paste it in there. It's going to clone it. And now let's add that to our bash rc file. So let's go ahead and sudo vim bash. Actually, before I do the vim bash rc, let's go ahead and check where Betty is installed. So let's go ahead and change the directory to Betty here. Then we'll make sure that we have the main RB, which is the Ruby file that's going to be run for Betty. Then what we'll do is we'll get the print work directory, we'll get root Betty, and then we're going to have main RB. So what I'll do is I'll type in vim.bashrc. I'll open that back up. Now I'll put the alias in there. Great. So let's put alias. Then we'll put Betty as the alias with that print work directory in there with the main RB. Let's go ahead and write that, then quit out of this file. Now before I can use Betty, I'm going to need to go ahead and source this file. So if I try to type in Betty right now, it's not going to find the command or anything for that. So let's go ahead and source the bash rc file. Now let's go ahead and try to run Betty. One of the examples actually on the Git repository is Betty. So it's like Siri, but Betty, what's my username? Right, username is root because I am the root user. Then we can also run some other awesome examples here, like Betty, show me all processes by root containing grep. Oh, look at that. It's giving me all the processes containing grep for root. And it shows you what it's running. So it's running the PS for processes, and it's running those attributes or parameters with it. So that's pretty cool. This is a great tool if you're just learning how to use the Linux command line, because of course it tells you what command it's running after you go ahead and you type in all that information. So again, we have Betty, what's my username? Then it runs the Who Am I command. Then it has Betty, show me all the processes by root containing grep. Then it shows you what command it uses there. And on the actual Git repository, there's so many different commands that you could use with Betty. And the whole goal behind Betty is to give you a more English-like interface that you can use with the actual Linux command line, or with the Linux terminals. Again, this is extremely useful and I think extremely fun. This doesn't only end with, system processes and things like that. We can ask Betty what time it is. So we'll go, Betty, what time is it? And it'll give us the time and even what today is. What's today? And look, it shows actually different ways that it responds. So we can also enter in the number 2 for getting the days of the week. So we'll go ahead and type in 2, press enter, and it runs the date command with the result right below it. Last but not least, let's ask Betty how many words are in this directory. Alright, so then it went ahead and Betty found this for us. We didn't have to type out this find command with all this complicated information there. It just went ahead and it found it for us, gave us the results here, and it's just awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the GitHub repository looks like, some of the change logs and things like that. All right, so this is the GitHub repository again. If you want to take a look at the commands, you can scroll down, take a look at some of the non-exhaustive list of commands here below. some things you can do for fun, make Betty go crazy. Actually, let's go ahead and test this out. Let's copy that and take a look at Betty go crazy. I'll just go ahead and I'll paste that in here. Oops. We'll paste that in one more time. Oh yeah, Betty did go crazy. Let's not do that again. But anyhow, let's go back into Safari and take a look at the other commands that you could use. We have Betty, what version are you? What's your GitHub again? Permissions for the directory. You can give another user ownership of the files, things like so. This is some pretty powerful stuff that you can do with Betty, just using some English-like commands. And if you take a look at the roadmap for Betty here, it's actually pretty exciting. So if you take a look at the roadmap, this was actually updated 4 months ago, but I'm sure as more and more users use this and it gets more popular, this will be updated a lot more often. We have a roadmap starting with 0.2, going up, and hopefully up to version 1.0. And then we can actually start using it more and more in production and things like that. I don't know if I would recommend this for production use. And we have 1.0 here before the project brainstorm area. So if you have the chance to, definitely go ahead, come to the GitHub repository, contribute to Betty, or take a look at Betty, start using it. One thing I'm excited is if the owner gets Betty into a package manager, someone helps the owner get Betty into a package manager on Homebrew. I would love to use this on my Mac interface, or maybe an Ubuntu system or something like that. But definitely take a look at that roadmap. Take a look at some of the README, the notices. Actually, the notices about the Apache license, you don't need to take a look at that. But then you can take a look at the library here. If you're interested in learning some of the Ruby code that is involved with creating Betty so that it runs those commands for you. And again, if you would like to go ahead and contribute, some Ruby, go ahead and get involved in this. I might be jumping onto this as well the more I use this. So this is definitely a cool plugin to use within the terminal. If you have the chance to, now that you've seen this, go ahead and install Betty. Get to know it, especially if you're a beginner in using the command line interface and you want something more English-like. That way you don't have to look up all of the commands that you would need in order to manage your server. Take a look at Betty, use it. Let me know how you like it within the comments below. Anything unnerving or anything like that, do mention that. I would love to hear your feedback about this, and I'm sure the author of this application would too. And if you again would like to contribute, definitely jump into this, pull the GitHub repository, make some edits of your own, put some issue tickets in there, and let's go ahead and get involved in this open source project here, and let's help this guy out. So again, if you have any feedback or suggestions, leave them within the comments below. If you're not yet a DOCasts user, become a DOCasts user. It's totally free. That way you can leave me some feedback on the episodes that you would like covered within future episodes. All right, so have a great rest of the day, and thanks for watching.